White House reporter Akayla Gardner, MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode, and retired U.S. Army Major John Spencer. He is also the executive director of the Urban Warfare Institute. Akayla, where do talks with Iran stand this morning as the president is set to convene his cabinet?
Well, we haven't heard directly from President Trump engaging with reporters in several days now about the status of negotiations, but Iranian state media is circulating what they're calling a memorandum of understanding. It would include a withdrawal of U.S. troops from the vicinity of Iran, and there's 0 troops right now inside Iran, so that is likely a reference to those stationed in neighboring Gulf countries. You also have this agreement, they're saying, for an end to the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, a commitment to restoring shipping levels to pre-war levels, and an agreement for Iran and Oman to manage shipping traffic. And they're asking for a 60-day timeline for this agreement to be approved. Now, the White House on X just said that this memorandum of understanding is a complete fabrication. And yet a White House spokesperson told us that negotiations are progressing. They noted that President Trump has several red lines. He has said that he wants the Strait of Hormuz reopened without any blockages, and he does not want to see Iran control the strait, which they're continuing to push for, and those tolls. He also has continuously said that he wants Iran to never have a nuclear weapon, and notably missing from this version of this agreement is no agreement about uranium, what the president has says he wants either transferred outside of Iran or destroyed in front of witnesses.
David, as we keep an eye out for this cabinet meeting to convene, Hegseth will be there, Rubio will be there. What will you be listening for in their discussion? What questions do the American people need answered in this moment?
When will the Strait of Hormuz be reopened, which will bring down gas prices? I think that's the question that everyone's asking in terms of voters and citizens. But based on past cabinet meetings, I don't think we'll see tough questions from members of the cabinet. Members of the cabinet don't do that for all presidents, but it's it's particularly true, it seems, under President Trump. There are going to be private parts of this meeting, and one would hope that Iran will be addressed then, but we just don't know. But that is the big question. When will the Strait of Hormuz be reopened?
I'll let you get a drink of water, David, and pivot to Major Spencer. I hate when that happens, get that frog in my throat. Major Spencer, of these details that Iranian state media is reporting on this memorandum of understanding, which, to be clear, MS Now has not confirmed, no mention of nuclear anything, which has been the Trump administration's reasoning to start this war. What do you make of that?
I make of there's still a lot of room to be done in the negotiation. We may be 5% left to negotiate, but if that's the non-nuclear proliferation of never having a nuclear weapon and the freedom of the Strait of Hormuz and no toll, then we're worlds apart. So I make that there's still a lot of negotiation to be done. And I'm optimistic, and I've seen a lot of the speculations of the memorandum of understanding, the deal. Some people came out with multiple points. It's just so uncertain at this moment. Even in Iran, there was a rumor that the internet was back on so they could get some money, because the Islamic regime really needs money to continue to do the things they want to do, to include survive. And now, the internet's been off for over 90 days, so we just don't know.
Major, what are your thoughts on the cabinet meeting now after those so-called defensive strikes this week, all the mixed messaging on a deal being close, et cetera?
I think that, the non-negotiables like Secretary Rubio's statements and the president's statements when he goes on Truth Social are pretty clear on what the non-negotiables are. But I do think this meeting is important because I think we're at a decision point. The strait can't remain closed. There's over 1,000 ships that need to get through. And even if you turned it back on, it would take a while. But I think the meeting is very important because there does need to be a decision made, either return to combat operations, and I do believe that is a potential, or we reach a deal if Iran isn't crazy in their non-negotiables on their side.
David, you have new details on why the U.S. launched those strikes on Iran on Monday. Fill us in.
Yeah, we just confirmed details. They circulated yesterday, but that the Iranians were very aggressive beforehand. They were sending drones towards American ships, armed drones. And they were also speedboats laying mines. The New York Times has reported some of that before, but we had a U.S. official confirm that. So the American forces felt threatened. It might have been a decision by the commander on the ground at that point to act. But it shows how Iranian forces remain a threat. They have apparently reopened as many as 31 of, I think, roughly 33 missile sites they have along the Strait of Hormuz. So that just shows the level of capacity the Iranian military retains at this point.
Meantime, in Lebanon, Israeli airstrikes killed at least 31 people yesterday, making it one of the deadliest days since the start of that ceasefire. And Akela, this comes after President Trump said in April, quote, Israel will not be bombing Lebanon any longer. They are prohibited from doing so by the USA. Enough is enough. So how is the White House reacting to Netanyahu's actions here?
Well, Israel's continuation of this bombing campaign has certainly complicated efforts by the State Department, led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, to really broker a ceasefire. But notably, Hezbollah, which Israel says it's targeting in southern Lebanon, was not a part of those talks. And that is really complicating the negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, because Iran is pushing for fighting on all fronts to stop, including in Lebanon. So that's something that we have yet to hear from President Trump directly in recent days, but certainly complicating his overall talks to end the war in Iran.
Akela Gardner, David Rohde, and Major John Spencer, thank you all joining us.